Today's Nick's tips. Proposals. What's up, Nick's?
What's up, Scotty?
Sons of CPAs bonus episode where Nikole, Nick's, Mackenzie, and Scott Scarano share a small but useful piece of practical advice as it relates to running their professional accounting firms, using words that start with the letter P. Today, we are talking about proposals, proposal software to be more specific. We actually planned a little bit more on this, and we have points. We have different points to project. Where do we start?
Yeah, so I think proposal softwares are a huge part of the sales process. So we've got 5 things that we look for in proposal software, and then we can talk about what we each use because we each use a different proposal software. So we can talk about the differences between the 2.
I have practice ignition, right?
And I have GoProposal. We've been using GoProposal for 2 years, and it's completely changed our sales process. It's amazing. We love it.
They have something different to offer than practice ignition. I've built up practice ignition to basically be a delivery method, but not necessarily a pricing tool.
Yeah, I think that's the main differentiator for GoProposal. It's really a pricing tool. It's proposal software, but it is a pricing tool, and there's a whole pricing methodology around it that the founder he does a
Beautiful.
lot in social media, does a lot of video, and he's really an advocate for accountants and value pricing and charging what we're worth. So I think it's a really good framework.
He's a fixed pricing fanatic. Like he's not
Yeah.
necessarily a value pricing disciple. He's just fixed pricing, and he believes that you shouldn't be offering more than one option. So it's a dichotomy that it's hard for me to grasp. It's hard for me to sit in the middle of one person saying you should definitely offer 3 options. That's the best way to present your proposals. And there's somebody else saying you need to give one option.
Yes, that's a good point. We don't do the options, and everybody in the industry right now is saying do the options. We don't do options. We do one proposal, one price, and then if we present it to the client and it's too much, then we'll take off services. And we also I love there's at the bottom of it, there's services to consider. So let's say you set it up with just accounting, payroll, bookkeeping services, but based on the
You have a
conversation that you
roadmap.
had with them that they need cash flow forecasting. Then you can put that into services to consider and say, "Here's your price as it stands, but based on our conversation, it sounds like you have cash flow issues. We can add it on if you want for this price." So, I think it's a really good tool to have a
That's a
conversation with the client
great
around and
tool.
let them choose what works for them.
I feel like you do have more control of the sales process if you are able to, at least able to trust yourself to go back to the stuff that's on the roadmap or the stuff that's suggested, and you have an anchor. You can still anchor your price to a higher, larger amount because you can scale things back. But I think we want to just talk about the importance of a proposal platform. Ooh, there's 2 P's. What to look for in a proposal platform.
Okay, so what's your sales process right now?
Right now, we're relying mostly on inbound leads. And from there, basically, I meet with them. We record the call. Matthew reviews that, reviews the type form that they fill out, and prepares a proposal in Practice Ignition based on basically what we offer everybody, and then just tweaks it based on their revenues and based on what they said or what they value and what they want. Sometimes we give options, sometimes we don't. Most of the time for new clients, like it's either we want to lead with what's their need right now, but that's kind of where it starts, is him preparing a proposal, me reviewing it, and then presenting it to the client. Most of the time we're just emailing it to them. Sometimes we attach
Mm,
a Loom video with the email, but we haven't been doing a lot of follow-up calls recently.
okay, interesting. So do you look at any of their financial information or tax return? No,
Nope.
it's all just based on what they tell you.
All based on what they tell us and our prices and we're trying to solidify those to be profitable across the board, but obviously there's older ways that we used to do it, and we used to review all of their stuff ahead of time, but that was more time consuming, and I don't wanna spend any of that time.
Okay. So your sales process is very different than ours.
Mhm.
So our sales process is they send an inquiry or I get an email introduction through someone in my network. They fill out a HubSpot form. That books time on Ashley's calendar, 20-minute call. She does a discovery call, basically a screening to make sure that they're a good fit, we're a good fit. Then she starts building out the proposal and Go proposal based on the information they tell her, and she requests more information, so their financial statements or access to QuickBooks Online. Then on the second call, we get on, me, her, and the client, and we start with the base proposal that Ashley built out based on that short conversation and the data that we got. And we have another hour-long conversation. Then then we give them a price range, and they gave us a verbal agreement, and we don't send them a proposal until they're like, "Yeah, I'm in, we're a good fit, let's do it." Then sometimes we'll have a third call where we'll actually review the proposal with them
How much
live.
time usually passes between the first call and the second hour call?
Usually about a week, sometimes
Okay.
2, ideally a week, so it's just a matter of getting both of our calendars. What we found, especially with big proposals, we do not just send the Go proposal because it's like 30 pages and it's overwhelming. So what we do now is we say we won't send them anything, we get them on a call first and go through it together and explain everything, and that's a really good opportunity to add services, take away services, and that's been game changing is actually reviewing it with
Agree.
them.
You basically can have them agree somewhat to what they want and know that they're gonna say yes before you send them the 30 pager. I love this.
Yes,
I'm taking
yes.
a lot of mental notes here because I think I wanna switch our process, and I just wanna figure out, do we have the capacity for somebody else to meet with them before me? And then I come in on the second call, if they're a good fit. Just how many people does Ashley say no to?
Well, the intake questionnaire typically filters out some if they're not the right industry or size, and then by the time they if they answer all those questions in the way that we want them to, then they get a call with her. So I would say about 70% are yes, because if they don't answer the questions correctly on that
You're
questionnaire, then we
you've
refer them
already
out
done
somewhere
a pretty
else.
good job. Mhm. Yeah,
And
so
then it's
you
just a
already understand
personality
that.
fit, right?
That's really cool. I dig it. I dig it. Personality fit. That's usually not something that I tend to consider. I always consider the bigger ones like, revenue and are they gonna be a good fit? But I think in the back of my mind, subconsciously, we're always doing a personality fit.
Well, a lot of times, especially when someone hires you, it's really about chemistry, right? They
Mhm,
can go to a lot of different CPA firms or EAs or accounting firms, whatever you want to call it.
mhm.
Um, but they're really looking for someone they enjoy working with.
I'd never heard EA firm before. I always say CPA. I say
Yeah,
CPA firm all the
I feel
time
bad
too.
because I said CPA, and I'm like, "Oh, you're right." Well, it is a CPA firm. You have CPAs that work for you.
I'm able to say that. I can say whatever I want.
EA
Like,
firm, an executive
I say
assistant
CPA
firm.
firm. Yeah, that's just, oh, I wish I had one of those and I can use
Oh,
my
we're
own
getting one,
services.
man. We are talking to
Ah, I
Cadencia
still
tomorrow.
haven't. Oh, that's really cool.
We'll
Yeah.
see how yeah, I don't know. It's on our,
Let me know how it goes.
on a list. Okay,
Yeah.
so we talked about pricing. Did
Well,
we
we
talk
didn't
about
really, so we talked about the process. We talked about both of our processes, but
Yep.
so pricing to be profitable, I think is fundamentally different on both systems or on fixed versus value.
Mhm.
So, fixed price model and a scalable price menu is what you use on GoProposal. So the backbone of everything you said on your process is based on, here's the services we're going to offer, and this is our price for that. Now you could tweak that however you want, and that's everybody's able to do that, and that's the value pricing technique. I think in any case, either one, you want to have some walkaway price or some baseline
Yep.
that you offer to almost everybody, and then ratchet it up a little bit here and there based on other factors like employee count, revenue, industry, which transactions, like however you want to do it. And value pricing and fixed pricing can be very similar in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I
It's
think of
just, yeah.
value pricing as the plug. So Here's the price, and then the plug is up or down depending on what you think the client's going to pay.
Yeah,
Usually
that's
hopefully
your
up, but
yeah, the plug. I love that because that's what we used to do on tax returns. What's
yeah,
the
just
difference
plug
here?
it.
Plug it. Just plug it on the on the no, Akron would hate if I said that out loud. Don't tell him. He probably
Plug it
won't
to
listen to this
miscellaneous.
anyway. Yeah, plug it plug it to miscellaneous. No, not even plug it to miscellaneous, but plug it to retained earnings or
No,
one of
no, don't
those.
do that.
Just plug it
Undeposited
there.
funds, ask my
Yeah,
accountant.
plug it to shareholders distributions, somewhere like
Beginning
that.
balance equity.
Yeah. Any balance, just throw to shareholders, bucket it up or down. So, just kidding for any listeners out there, I definitely don't do that because I don't do anything anymore. So I'm not even plugging anything. No more plugs. Plugs is not gonna be a P word that we use. Nobody's gonna listen to that one.
Sounds too sexual.
Unless we're talking about hair plugs, yeah. I
Okay.
wasn't even gonna go there.
My
I wasn't
mind
gonna
went
make
the
it
wrong
sexual
way.
at all, yeah. I was thinking hair plugs and you were thinking butt plugs, so let's get out of the plugs, let's get out of the gutter and go
Abort,
to
abort.
packages. So,
Whew.
packages, that is a technique for proposals that you can pre-populate. Oh, wow, I'm loving these P words. Pre-populate packages, PPP. How would you pre-populate a package on yours in GoProposal?
Yeah, so on GoProposal, we don't do packages, but it would be a base set of services. So,
Okay,
for example, you might have, okay, bookkeeping is the base packages, and then we build on top of that.
okay.
So there's not packages, it's just one full scope of services, but you can add on and take off services.
And we have templates that kind of bundle service like services together for different. I wish we did it for industries, and I think that that's kind of eventually the direction that we'll go. And then it's based on like the time of year or the needs. Like later in the year, you're going to have a lot more back work, and earlier in the year, if they've already got their tax return done by somebody else, we don't have that much back work, and we don't have too much as far as like setup is concerned. But as the year gets later, that part of the proposal gets a lot bigger, or there's an alignment fee in Go
Mhm.
Proposal that you're basically just backing into that based on whatever your monthly price is. So whatever you do, you want to have a definitely some prepackaged solutions ready for you to tweak, and that way you're not reinventing the wheel every proposal that you're doing in either platform.
Right, and James, I think, is the founder, right, of GoProposal, Ashford,
Mhm,
James Ashford.
mhm.
His whole thing and how GoProposal is set up is that you don't give clients a discount on the retroactive work. Like, you should still charge based on what you for that part of the service. If you're reconciling 100 transactions a month, you should charge for that in the catch-up months rather than
Yep.
being like, "Oh, I'm just gonna give it to you a discount," because it teaches them to just they're like, "Why would I pay for your services now if I could just wait a year and you'll do it all at once?" And I think a lot of CPAs will do an entire year's worth of transactions for super cheap, but it's a disservice to the client because you're teaching them bad habits. You're teaching them to show up with their books once a year because you'll reconcile it for 1,500 bucks. Why are they going to pay $1,000 a month for someone to do it every month? They're not going to.
Everybody's looking for the long term, what's my monthly recurring going to be? But then you've devalued it already
Yep.
by, if you're selling monthly recurring prices, you should never discount it. And I think I always go back and forth with that based on our capacity.
Yeah.
If we
Yeah.
have a lot of capacity and we need to backfill, like we'll offer some kind of deals, and I hate discounting stuff. I definitely don't ever change the price based after we've given somebody the price. Even if we know we can land the client, if all we can do is discount it, we don't even discount it. We let it sit on there, but before we deliver it to them, we really have to be mindful of, like, what price are we gonna present.
And that's what I like
So,
about GoProposal because if a client can't pay that, then you say, "Okay, well, right now we
we're
have
breaking
your
it out.
financials. You said you want them delivered on the 10th. How about we deliver them on the last of the month?" Or there's different things that you can do to reduce the price or that will make them happy with the
Exactly,
price.
yeah. So that's the ratcheting up or down, right? You can do frequency, you can do based on the deliverables or take services away, but you wanna start out with something that they probably would balk at, something that they probably would say, "Ooh, that's a little expensive." Say, "Alright, well, let's work with that." Like, if they don't say that's a little expensive, then you've definitely left money on the table.
Yes.
If they immediately say, "Oh, that's, like, great, let's do it." Like, I've done this before where I've presented somebody a proposal and they're like, where do I sign up? I was paying my other person $400 more than that a month, like I give it to them for 1,100. They're like, "Oh, wow, I was already paying 1,500. Let's do it."
Well, those are the ones you're usually stoked about. You're like, "Oh my god, they signed a $6,000 proposal," but you're like immediately you're stoked about it, and then you're like, "Wait, they didn't ask about it. I could have charged
Yeah.
7,000."
Yep. Yep. So let's not get greedy here, but let's
Yeah,
also be mindful of what we're doing. And I think GoProposal has a good way of doing that. And I think that's what three options is basically is
yes,
you're already working it down to the point where this is as far as I would already go, and you're saving yourself some time. Because if you present it to them and then they take the top one, you've already left money on the table anyway, right? Like that's you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't price it right and really have that anchor price. And that anchor price should be way beyond the range that they're probably willing to pay.
right.
Um, so so that's and it's just makes it a bit it's just a different bit of a different process. And I know we're going to get into processes after packages, but processes and automation with your proposal platforms is key too, like automations. You wanna go a little bit deeper into that?
Yeah, so I think from what I've heard, I think PI does this part really, really well, and that's why people love PI, right? Because you send out the proposal, the client signs it live, takes their credit card information or ACH information, and then sets up the recurring invoice. Boom, shoots that in a 0 QBO, and you're set, right? Is that how it works?
Everything. Yeah, that's how mine works, and that's why I'm using both, because Practice Ignition is the platform that automates the process of payments.
Right?
I'm just deliberately putting P's in there. The platform that it practice platform processes payments. And I've said this a lot on the podcast. It's like everything is almost automated where they come in for HubSpot that pushes to Practice Ignition. Practice Ignition proposal will then push to Carbon for the work. So we don't do any work unless it's paid for, and it doesn't leave Practice Ignition unless it's paid for because we don't do any pricing or any proposals that don't have payment up front. And then it pushes to 0 for us to reconcile the payment later. And so we don't even have to deal with like a clearing account of, reconciling where our other payment platform was because the payments are built into Practice Ignition, whether it's credit card or ACH. We try to make everybody ACH just because I'm still cheap accountant and I don't want to pay the credit card fees.
Same, same.
Yeah. And that isn't cash king. Like I've heard people that only take credit cards. Most people don't. Most accountants don't. But isn't cash king like
Well, I see us as just like an employee, right? If you can't cover payroll, you've got yourself a problem. You're paying us every single month, so you shouldn't have to put that on a credit card. If it's a project
not?
and you pay the credit card fees, it's a one-time project, sure. But if it's a recurring service, you should be able to pay for it.
I like that. Yeah. So projects should be processed with a little bit of processing fees, and then you can bump it up or pad it with a little bit of you know extra padding to cover the credit card cost. Anyway, for any accountants out there like me that don't want to have to pay a bunch of fees, like you see the difference though. Like I had maybe like 82 90 different proposals go through, and it was like less than $100 for the ACH, and then there was like seven, and it was like $900 for credit card fees.
So I bought a car last weekend, and we show up on a Sunday, and with Mike, I bought an Audi S5. And I'm like, "I didn't bring a checkbook. I don't know how I'm gonna pay. The banks are closed." So I call them like, "Well, how do I gonna pay for this?" And they're like, "Well, you could call the bank and try to get an increase on debit card, or you can pay by credit card." So
Yep,
Mike and I put together like 4 credit cards because the
I've done
balance
this.
put 60 grand on a credit card, on multiple credit cards. And we're like, "Oh, we get 2% back. Not a big deal because it's a 2% fee." So our credit card, we had the city double cash. So we
Mhm.
paid for it, and then we found out later, so we paid like 1,600, right, or whatever it is in credit card fees, and then we found out later that those were excluded purchases from the 2% back.
Of
So
course it
we
is.
didn't get the 2% on that.
So you had to pay the fee.
So we had to
Oh
pay the
well,
fee, but
I
whatever.
wouldn't. I wouldn't
Af
even put up with that. I
After
would
I
have
negotiated
demanded a refund of the
$2,000
fee.
off, yeah.
I would have demanded a refund of the fee. Like I would have said, "No, you know what? This was under false pretenses. I'm bringing the car back. Sorry, I got my."
Yeah, no, but I love it.
Uh, I already I like that car because a 5 looks like an S, and so it looks like my initials anyway. I've been
Ah,
I've
yes.
been saying that I am going to get a second chain is a dollar sign, so it has my initials, so I'm gonna have 2 chains. I got the Superman symbol and the dollar sign, and they're my initials, SS, and I could be driving an S5, which is kinda like my initials
It
too.
should.
So,
It's a great car.
now I got my X5. That's my so we're both driving S5s. That's pretty cool.
So Go Proposals automation's a little more clunky than PIs. So they get a PDF in their inbox, and on like page 4 of it, there's an approve my proposal button. Click on it. That takes them to an e-signature page. Then that takes them to an ACH form, but the ACH form is not integrated. It's part of Go Cardless,
Mhm.
separate company. So it's a little clunky in that
We're
you
having
have
some
to
issues with
manage.
Go Cardless right
Yeah,
now.
Go Cardless, there's a steep learning curve. We've had a lot of bumps in the road with Go Cardless. It's
The
working well
integration
now.
has changed, right? So
Yep,
it used to
yep.
be if you're using Zero, like the integration was made by GoCardless. Now it's made by Zero, and whichever integration you're using, if you're on a legacy platform, we just had a bunch of issues with it
Yeah, we
recently.
had that happen with the new client we onboarded where we implemented it for them, Go Cardless for them, and then it paid. So we were like converting them over to Zero, and they're like open invoices that had already been paid, and then it auto charged them, their clients. It was so embarrassing. So anyway,
We're dealing with something similar, and I got a call over the weekend from the new client, and he said, "Why'd you put me on this shit?" And we don't know. Like
yeah,
we were just
yeah.
trying to get him on a payment platform.
Well, we got all
So
on this, like, okay, we're gonna start helping clients with their AR. We're gonna help them implement a payment processor, and then we did it for a couple, and then now we're trying to figure out if we really want that liability and responsibility. But the client's not gonna
yeah,
do it, so I don't know.
yeah.
Anyway,
So
so payment
payment
processor we talked
processors,
about.
yeah.
You definitely
I
want
mean,
a
that's
payment processor
well, you
integrated.
definitely want to have something that's gonna be scalable. Just try to envision it several years down the road, and if it's still gonna work for you then, and you agree with the vision of the company and where they're going, I mean, honestly, I'll say Practice Ignition has some great roadmap. They're not as public about it as Carbon, but I think they have a lot of cool things coming in the pipeline. Carbon's notorious for having a cool ass roadmap that never gets there. They're just always pushing things out and saying this is a great thing that we're gonna do, and I get super excited, and then it just never happens.
Yeah,
So
I was just talking to Ashley about roadmaps today. She's like, "I'm tired of roadmaps 'cause they never happened." Like, especially there's all these apps that you go to their website and they'll say, "We integrate with QBO, we integrate with Zero," and there'll be a demo, and then you go talk to them and they like haven't even built a product yet. You're like, "Oh, that was just a."
they're building demand. They're basically building demand for it, and
Yeah,
then creating the roadmap based on the demand, and then
right.
creating the services based on how many people complain that it's not there yet. Then they go backfill it. Oh man, that's fun. So, decentralized or people is our next point. So, we got pricing, packages, processes, payment processing, and people. And that's a decentralized approach that Practice Ignition probably could do, but only if you don't really do fixed pricing because it's the bottleneck of the person that comes up not only if we don't do value pricing, I think, because the value pricing is going to bottleneck at the person who comes up with the prices. But if you have a fixed menu like
Yep.
GoProposal, like, do you have a decentralized approach and do you allow the team to present different packages or does it always still even roll up on
Yeah, I think
Momentum?
sales is the last thing most business owners get themselves out of because it's the hardest part to delegate to somebody else. And to your point about, uh, what was I saying? I lost my train of thought.
Well, this is actually really cool because it connected me to what Blake did at his cloud source accounting firm. He delegated sales early on,
Oh, right.
and he's doing that with Earmark right now too. He's
Mm,
delegating sales, and that's why it's not hard to get out of the sales process if you know how to delegate it effectively early on. And most people don't think that far ahead. Like they're just like, I need to fill the work and I'll deal with the sales. I'll just deal with it. And then eventually I'll get somebody out of it. And then they get so entrenched in the sales process because it's so customized and different for each person. Like, I've been meeting with podcasters or podcast producers for this podcast, and some of them have a detailed sales system and a structure, and some of them are just like, "I come up with my own prices. Alright,
yeah.
we customize it for everybody," and then that's harder for me to try and budget, who's gonna do it.
Yeah, if you're still coming up with prices, just pulling them out of your ass, you're never going to be able to delegate it to somebody else. So I like that GoProposal and PI and I'm sure there's other proposal software out there give you a framework that someone can come in and build off of. And honestly, being good at sales just comes with practice, right? The more you do it, the more
Mhm.
you listen to what clients need, you start to recognize patterns, and so you can sort of start predict what they need.
Oh, you're
Um,
killing it with the P words. Pricing, practice, patterns.
I think I dream about peas now, so I only speak in peas now because that's all we talk about is P words.
It happens.
Possibly.
Yeah, so, go back to your point.
The point is, if you want to be able to take sales off your plate as this business owner, you need a pricing tool and a proposal tool.
Yeah, to make it scalable and to be able to grow as a firm, and that is something that I struggled and still am struggling with because to a large degree, I'm still coming up with the prices off the top of my head. As much as I've fooled myself into thinking we have a model, we don't. We have a little spreadsheet that says roughly what our clients are paying on average against
Mm.
these revenue brackets, and that's it. It's just a revenue bracket. It's not very detailed. I haven't made an effort to go into it, and honestly, we need to, and we need to figure that out so we can start using GoProposal. So we paying for it. We're not really using it yet because I don't have something that I'm comfortable with. They have it set up, and I'm just not that comfortable with it yet. And so I think it's me getting in my own way, at least for us, to be able to scale out of it.
Yeah, I would say that our Go proposal is a work in process. Like we probably every time we do a proposal, we probably like add one more. Maybe not every time, but every 5 we'll add on something
What it
else.
feels like.
So
Yeah, that's what it feels like.
it took a year to get it to a really good spot where it's like, bam, I can put together a proposal in 10 minutes. So it takes time to build it and add in all your custom service lines that you do that's unique to your firm. Um,
Well, I'm just
but once you
complicating
do it
things by wanting to use 2, because then it's just easy to go straight to practice ignition when I wanna quickly create
yeah.
a proposal. I gotta have incentive to use the other one, and
Well,
the incentive now is that I'm paying for it.
I thought PI was building out something similar to what GP has.
I hope so. I hope
So, I
so.
mean, if they did that, they would probably if they just copied Go Proposal, they'd have a huge
Yeah.
advantage because they have a sleeker system, I think.
Well, for now and for the time being, I'm gonna be using both at least until that happens, which will probably be another year or 2, and by the end of this year, I'll have, like,
Another year or 2.
probably, with softwares and their roadmaps, we never know.
I like how
So,
we can add a roadmap now for our
yeah, I know.
clients. Like, "Here, do you need these services? We don't offer them yet, but here, you
Yeah,
need
I
an
didn't
app."
even know it was if you offer it or not. I thought it was just if they want it and they don't wanna pay for it yet.
I was like,
That's even better. So, let's wrap this up here. So we've got, today's topic was proposals and proposal platforms, and, I think we've kinda talked about that. Any listeners? If I need to definitely start asking for this more. If you could leave us a 5-star review, subscribe to the podcast on your favorite podcast player.
what they
Yeah.
could do also, if you could go, search Sons of CPAs on LinkedIn and follow our
Follow
page.
us on LinkedIn.
Follow us
Yeah,
on
yeah.
LinkedIn.
And follow me on Twitter. Follow us on any of the platforms, on the social platforms that you find us on. You can find Nikole, Mackenzie. It's Nikole with a K, like Nick's, and Scott Scarano on Twitter. Yeah, open up your Twitter. Go to @Scott Scarano. See you guys. Thanks,
Bye.
Nicole.
Bye, Scott.